Right, if you just joined us, you're still with us. This is still Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's get to our main conversation for today. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu presented a proposed 2025 budget of 47.9 trillion naira to the National Assembly titled Budget of Restoration, Securing Peace and Rebuilding Prosperity. This marks a 36.8% increase from the 2024 budget of 27.9 trillion naira.
The proposal approved earlier by the Federal Executive Council at 47.96 trillion naira aligns with Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, focusing on stabilizing the economy, enhancing livelihoods and positioning Nigeria for growth.
Tinubu was accompanied by Vice President Kashim Shettima, key ministers and political figures including governors and the APC chairman. Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Speaker Tajuddin Abbas presided over the joint sitting.
The 2025 to 2027 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper (FSP) approved in November set oil benchmarks at $75 to $76.2 per barrel and projected daily crude production of 2.06 to 2.35 million barrels.
The GDP growth rate was estimated at 4.4% to 5.5% over 3 years, while the exchange rate of 1,500 naira to the dollar is subject to review in 2025. The proposed budget reflects Tinubu's commitment to fostering peace, rebuilding prosperity, and advancing economic stability for Nigeria. We still have with us today Mr. Jamiu. Thank you so very much. We truly do appreciate you for hanging on.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about this particular issue. And I'd love you to, if possible, help us fleshing out what Nigerians do not know yet about this budget. Maybe let's start from there.
Yes. In actual fact, the 2025 budget is not as big as the 2024 budgets.
How?
Yeah. Yes. I'm an economist, and we are not talking about the figures now.
Okay.
Yes, you see $47.9 billion for 2025 and 27 billion for 2024. But when you benchmark it on dollar terms, last year's budget is actually about $38 billion in dollar value.
Okay.
That's the 27.7.
Yes, 27.6. Yes, yes.
While our 47.9 trillion this year, for 2025 projection, is just $28 billion.
Please help us do the maths. How did we miraculously come to that?
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Last year, the budget, dollar was at about 750, 800 naira to $1.
Okay.
When we started 2024. So when you do the mathematics of the exchange rate, then so the volume or the size of our budget as at then was 34 billion, so $38 billion. But today's rates at $1,600 and 47.9 trillion is just $28 billion. So, and your budget is not basically naira and kobo. If you are going to factor your budget with that of South Africa, for example, it's going to be dollarized. With that in fact, the budget of Kenya is bigger than that of Nigeria.
Yes, true.
Although our GDP is still higher than their own. Because of the floating of our naira, we have dropped from the largest economy in Africa now to number 4, number 5. I pray we go back to being the real giant that we are. So the floating of our naira has affected the value of the figure is huge, really, but our budget is small in actual terms. And one of the holes I'll puncture in the budget is the ambitious 15% inflation, which we are targeting with the 2025 budget. Presently, inflation is at 34.7%, and we are hoping to take 20 digits off our inflation rate between now and the next 12 months.
Wow. that's
ambitious.
Yes, very so ambitious.
So how we are going to come from 34.6 to 15% in 12 months, I want to see that magic. I'm quite optimistic, but I see that as a bit too ambitious. Probably an inflation rate of 20-25% would have been ideal. For a target to meet. But then there's some positives in it, and the government plans to fight insecurity, especially with defense having the highest chunk of the budget with 4.95 billion, trillion naira. Infrastructure development too. The government is looking into that and pumping a lot of money into infrastructure, and closely followed by the health sector and also education. So you see the 4 cardinal areas where the government want to spend money. And it says they want to spend money on security so that farmers can be encouraged to go back to the farm so that we can have higher yields, which is quite nice. Then infrastructure, when you improve on infrastructure, when you pump money into the economy, you fight inflation.
Now, talking about the infrastructure, this is about, they're going into the 2nd year already. And in a country where in 2024 alone, the budgets, Nigerians have not even felt the impact. The price of fuel is high. The food items are outrageous. And I want to just read out something from his statement. He said the proposed budget reinforces his administration's roadmap to secure peace, prosperity, and hope for greater hope for Nigeria. Now, how can a greater hope for Nigeria be feasible for Nigerians to see, feel, or even be part of when in this current year already the price of rice is high? When it comes to security, we now have the Lakurawa in the north, where most of these foods and even the farmers stay. So how are they going to bring about those changes?
I would have been surprised if you don't talk about the price of rice as a woman.
Period, yes.
Yeah, of course, rice is hovering, selling for between 80 and 120,000 naira now, depending on whether it's a long grain or short grain or
local or
foreign. So, which is, wherever you put it, it's still on the high side. But then I think we were hit with a 3-pronged shock to our system in May 2029 last year. May 2029, 2023, last year, when the president removed a subsidy, floated the naira, and in April this year, electricity tariff. Most of us are now in band A or band B or whatever, where, but one good thing about that is that as at September, October, when Dangote Refinery came on board, we have sort of reached an equilibrium level. A situation where you see the price of fuel jumping from 500 naira to 1,000 can't happen again. Now we are stabilizing. At a point it was at 1,050 or thereabout, but today at NNPC I think it's at about 1,000. So what I'm saying is, if we are going to have any increment in the price of petroleum products now, it's going to be very, very minimal, unlike what we had in the past. So I think subsidy has now been totally removed, and electricity tariff too, we are almost at that level where government wants it. Also, the floating of the naira can't suddenly jump from 1,006 or thereabout where it is now to above 2,000. And as a matter of fact, about 2 weeks ago, the naira appreciated against some major currencies, and
went back again.
And went back again, although it's still within that range. So we are at that equilibrium point, but I won't want Nigerians to think that fuel will come down to about 600 or 500 naira per liter, because this is an international commodity. It's a function of how much you refine a liter of petrol, which at today's dollar rate and the price of crude oil comes to about 600 to 700 naira.
Even if Dangote is being supplied in naira.
In naira, yes.
So how?
No, because even if it's supplied in naira, your $70 per barrel of crude oil is still $70 per barrel. And you convert that to naira, you still get the same thing. The only advantage for Nigerians is that Dangote won't need to go to HSBC in US or JP Morgan or Bank of America to purchase dollar, or need an international bank as an intermediary to buy Nigerian crude oil. So we have, I think the highest now is Afrexim Bank that will serve as an intermediate bank for the conversion, while some other local banks are also involved. So we have been able to cut off some international exchanges. I mean, so it's now localized. Also, I still see some brickbat between NNPC and Dangote on some monies they are owing themselves in terms of shares or what have you. I think it's a problem they should not allow to concern we consumers. They should just find a way of bringing down the PMS price to, if possible, below 1,000.
All right. So let's get back to the budget again. I want you to help us make sense of this. A nation, an economy, a government that does well with borrowing. It borrowed to fund the 2024 budget. As it stands today, for 2025 budget, about 13 trillion will be borrowed to supply for the deficit of that particular budget, according to Wale Edu. Now, how do you think the desire of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu achieving whatever interest he wants to achieve for Nigeria would work when we are borrowing to fund the budget 2025?
Yeah, now breaking this down, there's nothing, like I said, I'm an economist, there's nothing bad in borrowing. Where your borrowing could be bad is if you borrow to pay for consumption, or if you borrow to develop infrastructure, to pay for, to add value into your economy, maybe to borrow to go into farming, borrowing to pay for, to go into productive activities, it's fine. And also, what we are borrowing is, what we are borrowing and our deficit financing is not up to 5% of our GDP, which is fine. It's just about 3.5%.
Yes, 3.89.
Yeah, it's about 3.89% of our GDP. So we will be funding, we'll be borrowing about 13.8 trillion to fund the 2025 budget, yes, while our deficit financing is about 15 trillion, which is still, I think, is still within this threshold, especially considering the fact that we have a GDP that can accommodate this. And also, like I said earlier, there's practically nothing wrong with borrowing, but then we should be able to manage it. But before now, our deficit financing was up to almost about 60-70%, but this has come down significantly. And also, our internally generated revenue profile has gone up considerably,
even if it's affecting the generality of Nigerians, because Nigerians have been taxed to their bone marrow.
Yes, that's why the tax reform bill is coming. I'm not clapping for governments on this, because I'm also feeling the pain. But what Nigerians want to see is for an average man to be, an average Nigerian to be able to afford 3 square meal, to be able to provide shelter and food, put food on the table for the family. So if we can manage inflation better, I think some of these indices will look good for us in a year 2025.
Okay. If we can manage, now who is in the right position to manage? Can we say our leaders have the right attitude to manage? Looking at how and where they channeled in more money with the budget in this year 2024, if we'll be truthful to ourselves, can we categorically say they have to sit down and maybe look at some of their payment, their spending, looking at
frivolous spending.
You were saying that it's not wrong to borrow to input into the system, infrastructure and co. But can you categorically say this government, come 2024, they borrowed to put into one infrastructure or the other? What can we pinpoint, even in the health sector? If we'll be truthful, a lot of our practitioners, our doctors and co, they've left the country because they are not even well catered for.
Yes, and from the snippets of the budget, I see that there's an ambitious goal towards improving on the health sector. A lot of healthcare facilities that that the president talked about in the budget, although it's still very sketchy. We are going to have the breakdown the full breakdown only after it has been passed by the National Assembly, and that might not happen till probably in the next 2 weeks or probably first week in 2025. But basically from the allocations to the different sectors, defense and security, like I said earlier, almost 5 trillion, 4.91 trillion. Infrastructure 4.26 trillion, health 2.48 trillion, and education 3.52 trillion. One novelty in which this administration has done is the NEL fund, which has pumped about 300 billion into the payment of school fees for about 300,000 students.
As against, there are over 2 million undergraduates in Nigeria.
And
less than
but then
yes.
If you follow the trend, most students didn't believe in this in the first instance. They didn't even apply for this. They never thought it was possible.
Well, don't you think it would have been better that the parents are able to cater for their children? In the University of Ibadan, it became so worse that students started crowdfunding to take care of their fellow students just so they can sit for exams. So when we say the NEL fund is doing all of that, to what percentage is that going into securing the life and security and education awareness of Nigerians?
In actual facts, education is still subsidized in Nigeria compared to other countries
where GDP is well enough. Well, against Nigeria.
Well, it's a function of but this is the first time in Nigeria that even students have the opportunity to take some facilities to pay. In the past, it was only very few people benefit from the so-called scholarships.
Sorry to cut you short, Mr. Mujid. We know that the sitting government, those who have participated and enjoyed the dividends of Nigeria are the ones that are sitting in the helm of affairs today. And some of the policies they are bringing out are not what, if they are truthful to themselves, they would say categorically was what they enjoyed far back.
Yeah, times are changing. A lot of things. Of course, most of them enjoyed free education under Chief Obafemi Awolowo then. But a lot of economies have undergone tremendous changes too. We need to, yes, we need better governance, no doubt about that. But then all of us here, we have our roles to play in all of this, especially the Gen Z generation. Rather than sit back and watch and be laid back. We need to take part. I mean, look at what happened in Senegal, for example. We have a president who is just 36. Can that happen in Nigeria?
Because the electoral system permitted that. Would INEC permit that happen in Nigeria?
See, don't let us say, will INEC permit it? At least we need to try first.
That is the beavers. Remember, we're still having issues of the beavers not working when they were supposed to work.
So, the Senegal didn't just get there in a day. Ghana is just our next door neighbors. They conducted their own elections, quite credible. I mean, no fuss, no noise. So, a lot of all these things, we all have roles to play.
Okay.
As long as we Nigerians are willing to collect 5,000, 10,000 naira on election day to vote against our conscience, then we are also gullible. We are also part of the blame game who enthrones these leaders that are not supposed to be there.
All right. Let's look at what the opposition is saying. The PDP is saying that the proposed budget is shady and ingenious. They particularly said that the 134.3 trillion naira debt, and criticized the budget reliance on increased taxes and levies to fund the 13 trillion naira deficit. As much as the APC would love to say they are opposition, they want to go against everything that we do, don't you think there's a sense in what they are saying?
Of course. Well, I mean, you don't expect the opposition party to clap for their opponents. Of course, I mean, you expect the PDP and even the Labour Party to criticize the budget, no matter how good the budget might seem to be to those the proponents of the budget, the APC and the presidency. Of course, the opposition party won't see anything good in. Of course, they will be looking for loopholes. And like I said, even as an economist, I mean, I believe that it's too ambitious to think that we can drive inflation from 34.6% to 15%. And also to benchmark our crude oil production at 2 million barrels. I mean, they claim we're at about 1.8 million barrels now. Where will the new oil fields come from that will take us to the 2 million barrels or the 2.3 that they are even projecting for the end of 2025? So these are all ambitious targets. So, of course, the PDP has every right to criticize it. I mean, of course, that's why they are opposition. And you can see what Kemi Badenoch is doing to the PM. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
In Britain. So it happens everywhere. The main major role of the opposition is to pinch holes in the balloons of so that
they bring their feet to the fire as much as we get. All right, we would have loved to continue with this conversation. It's becoming more interesting. But we just have to let it slide by this time. We'd love to say thank you so very much, Mr. Mojid Jamiu. He is the executive editor of Upshot Media. We truly do appreciate you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. All right, people, that's just about the time we have for our show today. We'd love to say thank you to you. You've watched, you've streamed, wherever you've done that around the world, we want to say thank you. But please do well to be part of our community. And also visit us, if you may. You can always find us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Ikwibike.
And I'm Choma Okohe.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye-bye.